Good morning. Well, I mean, if you're watching it with me right now, it's good morning. It's 9 a.m. on Tuesday. My body still hasn't recovered completely from the time change, so it feels like 8 a.m. I thought I'd try to do a reflection early in the morning, which is different than what I normally do. I like to relax in the morning and ease my way into the day. But so it's a little different. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, I'm still a little sleepy, but that's okay. It rained here last night. I think there might be some residual rain today, which is nice. It always, we're heading into the springtime, and I do have allergies, and the rain helps to knock down the pollen, clean the air a little bit, and we need the rain badly here in California. It's not going to be enough to alleviate the drought that we're in, but it's better than nothing. So anyway, be that as it may, let's take a look at today's reading. Today's reading is a little bit different. Normally, Jesus speaks directly to the person about themselves. And in today's reading, he does and he doesn't. He's speaking directly to his disciples and the crowd, but he's bringing in a third party who may or may not be present. I mean, oftentimes they were. So let's take a look at it. Okay. So let me manipulate my screen here a little bit, and we'll pull that reading up and take a gander at it. Okay, here we are. Let's go to the top here. It's in Matthew. So we've been in Luke. Yeah. Now we're back in Matthew. And what do we have? Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples, saying, "The scribes and the Pharisees have taken their seat on the chair of Moses." Now, maybe the scribes and the Pharisees are in the crowd. That's awfully often possible, but he's not calling them out directly. And when I read this, they've taken their seat on the chair of Moses. Well, we have the chair of St. Peter, Catholics do, which is in the Vatican. But every cathedral has a cathedra, which is the chair of the bishop's seat, bishop's chair. So it's interesting. Anyways, keep going. Therefore, do and observe all things whatsoever they tell you, but do not follow their example. You're going to hear echoes of our current times here. Okay? For they preach, but they do not practice. They tie up heavy burdens hard to carry and lay them on people's shoulders, but they will not lift a finger to move them. All their works are performed to be seen. They widen their phylacteries and lengthen their tassels. Okay, now that's part of Judaism. The first century phylacteries are so back in the Old Testament, guys used to put his word on their forehead and on their hands, whatever. And so they would actually do it. They would write little scrolls and put them in a little leather box and fasten it to their foreheads, and they'd have one on their hands, and they'd wrap these leather thongs. The tassels were the tassels on their garments, their prayer garments. Okay? So it was part of their religious attire. Sound familiar? They love places of honor at banquets, seats of honor in synagogues, greetings in marketplaces, and the salutation, Rabbi. Rabbi means teacher. As for you, okay, so he's using the scribes and the Pharisees as an example. Now he's speaking directly to the people. As for you, do not be called Rabbi. You have but one teacher, and you are all brothers. And this reminds me of a story of St. Augustine that I was reading. As you know, being a catechist, a lot of RCIA materials comes from St. Augustine's time and from his writings. So I was very interested to read about what he said and did. And when he was speaking to the catechumens, these people who are just learning about the faith, wanting to enter the church, he would climb off of his chair, because he was a bishop. He had a chair, and they used to be elevated. And he would come down to the level of the people and address them and say, you know, I'm a student just like you are. I'm just a little bit further along. That's the only difference. I'm not your teacher. Christ is the teacher, right? And that's still the same today, right? So in catechism, I don't see classes. I don't see myself as a teacher, nor do I see it as a class so much. I'm a facilitator of the information. Okay, let's keep going. Call no one on earth your father. You have but one Father in heaven. Notice how they capitalized Father for the Father in heaven. Okay, well, if you look at the original text, almost everything is capitalized, so it's hard to know what's actually being said here. That's for another day. Do not be called master. You have but one master, the Christ. The greatest among you must be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, but whoever humbles himself will be exalted. Therein is the lesson, okay? It says Christ here. So let's see, did he actually use that word? Because that would be interesting if he did. Let's see. He does. Well, I'm looking right now at the interlinear, and the word in the Greek is Christos. So he does use the word Christ, which I find very interesting, because up to this point, not very many people have identified him as the Messiah, which is what Christ means, Messiah. One of the things that came to my mind as I was reflecting on this reading was a story about St. Francis. And so I went out and I found it, and I'm going to share it with you. You may have heard it. It's a good little story. And like all good stories, when I read them, I need my glasses. And of course, I'm holding my iPad with one hand and doing my glasses with the other. So bear with me. That was a little rude, but that's okay. All right, here we go. On one occasion, a parishioner brought to the attention of St. Francis a priest involved in a scandalous affair. He asked St. Francis to go and correct the priest. The first thing St. Francis did was to kneel and kiss the hands of the priest. St. Francis was not condoning any possible wrong behavior of the priest, but instead was teaching us that God works through his church, even when its ministers fall short. Whenever St. Francis met a priest, he would kiss his hands, because no matter how sinful or corrupt the priest, Christ still comes to us through those hands. And in Catholicism, Orthodox Christianity, and a couple of others, but especially in those two, itchy nose, we celebrate the Holy Eucharist. And during the liturgy of the Eucharist, we see the transformation of the bread and the wine into the body and blood of Christ at the hands of the priest. It's not the priest doing it. It's God doing it through the Holy Spirit. But the priest is the one that's up there presiding and holding the elements. St. Francis said, if I were to meet at the same time some saint coming down from heaven and a poor little priest, I would first pay my respects to the priest and proceed to kiss his hands first. I would say, just a moment, St. Lawrence, because this person's hands handle the word of life and possess something that is more than human. These hands have touched my Lord, and no matter what they be like, they could not soil him or lessen his virtue. To honor the Lord, honor his minister. He can be bad for himself, but for me, he is good. And that's the teaching of the church, that although the priest or bishop who is presiding over the Mass, regardless of their behavior or their character or anything, they cannot diminish or stain Christ. And so the Eucharist comes to us pure, even if through impure hands. It's kind of cool. Yeah. The more I thought about it, I even got a little deeper into this. And there's a saying in Latin, and I forget exactly how it goes, but the short form is lex orandi, lex credendi. And basically it means is as the church prays, it believes. And I always like to add lex vivendi, which would then mean as the church prays, so it believes and then lives. Because I think what I'm getting from this is that God is more concerned with what I do than what I believe, right? The scribes and the Pharisees, they don't practice what they preach, basically, right? What did my mom say? Don't do what I say. Don't do what I do what I say. Because that's, kids call that their parents out all the time, because we are not perfect and we are a little bit hypocritical sometimes, right? Don't do as I do as I say. But what do? So they tie up heavy burdens, hard to carry. They won't help out. They perform works to be seen, all this external stuff, the phylacteries and the tassels and their honor at banquets. Christ is calling us to what? Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, but whoever humbles himself will be exalted. The greatest among you must be your servant. And I, as I look out into the church and Christianity as a whole, I see that we've got room for improvement. And it's not just our religious leaders, whether they be priests, bishops, pastors, doesn't matter. It could be a lay person who is in a position of leadership or authority or a teaching role of some sort. But that we're still there to be servants. We're still there to be humble. Yeah. Yeah. And of course, I just realized that I've got my reflections thing up there. Ding. I hope that helps everybody. And, but I'm going to stop sharing this page. So I'll put my reflections back. I think this carries over into all facets of our life, not just in the ecclesial religious context, but in our interactions with people, whether it's at work, maybe I'm a boss or a manager or something like that. Bosses love to have their authority acknowledged. That's important to them. And there's nothing wrong with being respectful. I think that's appropriate. Absolutely. of a person's position, whether it be in the church or a synagogue or a mosque or whatever, place of business. But oftentimes when we look at success or what we think is success, we think, well, in order for me to be successful, I need to copy that. And Jesus is saying, no, that's not the case. That's not the case. Because to be successful in the kingdom of heaven is not the same as being successful in the kingdom of earth. We are to be humble. We are to be servants. And so today, for me, as I walk through my life, I'm going to take a look at how can I be a servant to others, even strangers, someone that might need help with something, some little thing. That's what I'm going to do today. And since I started early, I've got most of the day to follow through on it. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, I'm going to add this because I keep forgetting to do that. So before we go, let me throw this up here. There's one. So you can watch me on YouTube. It's called Reflections with CJ, right? And this, this isn't clickable at all. There it is. And I'm not going to throw it up there long enough for you to write all that out. Just go to YouTube and type in Reflections with CJ. You'll find it. Anyway, that's my plug for today. Let me go back to this. So thank you to those who are with me early this morning live. I hope your day goes very nicely and smoothly and you get a lot done. You don't get too tired because of this stupid time change. And thank you to all who are watching the recording. I wish you all to be, happy, healthy, safe, and God bless. I love it when I make mistakes. Mistakes are human. Have a great day.